question that came up on screen, which I did not answer, whether you need to invest the 800K all in one shot. Well, the law does provide that you're allowed to be in the process of investing. However, despite that, I think most regional centers will want the monies within a reasonable amount of time. You might give them 3 to 4 months, but if somebody says, I want a year to pay out, I don't think that's likely. I don't think that's going to happen, simply because of a very simple business reasoning. Golden Gate has people waiting to get into their projects. Why would Golden Gate wait to receive monies over a 6-month or a 9-month period of time from somebody if Brandon or Neeral or Rohit can give you that check today? It's just practical. It's not going to happen. So legally, it may be allowed. Practically speaking, I don't think that basically that's going to work. For investors from India, it can often work quite well if you're giving part of it in December, January, and then you're giving the balance in April, simply because you're kind of using the two Indian financial years, and most regional centers understand that without a doubt. But I think it's a question of what is the period of time that you're looking for, and very importantly, you have to be able to identify your source of funds in the beginning. You can't then go out and change your mind and say, oops, you know what, the house that I was going to sell burned down, so now I'm going to borrow money from a bank. That's just not going to work. You're asking for trouble. So I think a lot of I shouldn't say the younger generation, but compared to me, pretty much everybody's the younger generation who says, oh, I'm going to get my bonus later on. And suddenly, unfortunately, they might find instead of getting a bonus, they got a pink sheet. May not work well for EB-5. And clearly, I would also expect that a regional center like Golden Gate wants to minimize that risk, as opposed, even if you can't eliminate it completely.
Yeah, so I'll add a few things to that. Sorry, Neeral, just from a regional center perspective, I'd like to add a few things to that. It also depends on the size of the project and capital needs. So the one thing is, yes, it is absolutely okay to invest partially, file your I-526, lock in your priority date. You can start with 150 or 200K. That's perfectly fine. Now, considerations are, if it's a smaller project and has capital needs starting from January of next year, a regional center cannot give 6 months time frame to fund in full because the developer needs the money sooner, right? So that's one consideration. For a larger projects that we've done in the past where we were raising capital over a year, 6 months was absolutely fine. The second consideration is, in a lot of cases when we did give 6 months to fund in full, for some of the investors, a good thing turned into bad. Their petition got picked up in 4 months. Mm-hmm. And instead of getting an approval, they got an RFE to prove whether they funded in full. Now, if you're waiting for an event such as sale of property, RSU vesting, et cetera, well, you don't have that luxury anymore. You have to invest then and provide proof that you funded in full or you get a denial. As a result, it increased the economic burden on the investor because they had no choice but to withdraw their petition, wait for that event to happen, and refile instead of suffering a denial. So that adds the added USCIS fees, which used to be $3,500 and is now $12,500, right? So that's a lot of burden. So these are some of the considerations when you're looking into a project you want to partially fund. It's fine, but be aware that it can cause some heartache along the way.
Yeah, no, interesting, Avi. I don't know if Rohit or Neeral, you've seen this, but, Avi, we just had a case, and the gentleman is actually on the call today, so I'll say hello to him, where his 526 was approved, I think Tuesday or Wednesday, but he still hasn't fully funded. No RFP, no NOID, no request for consideration. So I don't know if that's a trend. Hopefully that is. First time I've seen them approve a 526 without RFP or NOID, where the individual hasn't fully funded at the time of adjudication. So knock on wood that we'll see more of those. But yeah, generally speaking, to your point, you want to try to fully fund sooner rather than later because, so like the other gentleman or other people out there that, where their case was picked up before they fully fund it, and now they've lost control of their funding timeline. So
right. And Neeral, sorry I cut you off early on, but please.
No, I was actually going to I was just going to echo exactly what you said is that, at the end of the day, these projects can give you as much time as you want to fund. But if USCIS comes knocking, then you have to be prepared either in 30 or 90 days to not just fully fund, but then also provide adequate source of funds documentation for that. And that, if source of funds already takes 4 to 8 weeks or so, that can get a little dicey.
Right. And also, like, even if you fund partially, right, you are eligible for those interim benefits. All the investors that invested with us with a 6-month horizon, they got their EADs, APs, no problem. There was no RFE on that. It's just that you're risking an RFE for if there is a faster I-526E or conditional green card adjudication. And Brandon, you're right. We had a few approvals like that too, with only partial.
Your APAD is not tied to your funding per se, so you don't actually need to be fully funded to get your APAD. So you can get started earlier to get that process started.